There's been mixed reactions to the recently released census 2023 data that has seen the country's population grow to 62 million. While government has commended the statistics, a number of experts have questioned the numbers, citing undercounting. But how accurate are these numbers? To help us make sense of this and other questions relating to the census, I'm joined now by Professor Nicole De Wet-Billings, who is the Associate Professor of Demographic Studies and Population Studies at WITS. A very good morning to you, afternoon rather. Thank you so much for your time. The latest South African census is quite an important set of numbers when it comes to shaping policy and budgets. But how much can we rely on it? Is it accurate enough?
Good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for having me. It's a good question. It's a fair question. The accuracy with the 30% undercount. There are ways to adjust the numbers for undercount, which have been applied by Stats SA. So without having seen the data but believing that this adjustment was done, I think we can be fairly secure in the overall stats that we're seeing. So the larger stats of population growth, of increase in services, that's fairly reliable, Paul.
The undercount, has been cited as an area of concern. Of course, it refers to the proportion of the population that were missed during counting. I mean, I know for Census 2022 that figure stood at 31%. For Census 2012, there was an undercount of 14.6%, which was considered a massive concern. And Stats SA has also downplayed the problem of the undercount on this occasion, that 31%. What should we make of that?
Not too much, Paul. As I've said, there is an adjustment that can be made. And this comes from the UN calculations because South Africa isn't alone in having an undercount during a census. As viewers know, censuses are done in every country practically all over the world. And at various times, there would be massive undercounts, and then these methods get applied to compensate for that. So it's fairly technical, but it does level out the numbers. It's obviously not as perfect as us having a small undercount or a zero undercount, but there's also a post-enumeration survey that feeds into this that helps to boost the numbers and check the accuracy of what was collected.
Two aspects of the census findings have raised the eyebrows. I mean, the figures around homelessness and international immigrants. The census recording just over 55,000 homeless people nationally. But there have been suggestions that the figure could be much higher. What could be driving the increase? And is there a possible danger of an undercount?
Yes. So, yes, there is a danger of undercount. So, homeless populations are more transient, so not likely to find them in the same place every time. And because they move so much, it is possible that numbers of these individuals were not counted because they don't have a single place where they stay. What this means, the increase in the homeless population, is obviously that while services have increased in some areas, other areas were not doing so well. So it is of concern. It is a worrying trend. And, we need to balance this out with the population growth. We need to balance out the percentage of people who are now homeless who weren't previously with the kind of perpetually homeless, people who have always been. And that's very concerning. It speaks to services, it speaks to homes and infrastructure. And I guess socially it just speaks to a trend we don't want to see in this country. We don't want to see an increase in our homeless population.
The census is a great tool to assist in compiling a numerical profile of the country to essentially inform decision-making at all levels, both in government and in the private sector. Yet the size of the economy is not expanding at the same rate as the size of the population. Where is the government falling short here in keeping up, or is it a matter of forecasting the growing demands of the nation?
So, South Africa has a growing youth population. So our youth population is substantially large, and it's proportionally larger than our elderly and our children population. So this is what we call the demographic dividend, where this youthful age composition that we have can potentially unlock economic and social development, meaning that these are individuals who are able to work, able to contribute to the gross domestic product, to the economy, both in private and government sectors, but the resources and the services need to be in place for them to do so. So to answer your question about what government perhaps needs to do is ensure that the unemployment rate goes down. Ensure that more young people are employed in positions where there is growth, where there is economic development, because our population growth is potentially hazardous unless it is alongside economic and social growth.
Yeah, that leads me to really thinking that perhaps these costly government programs seem to be yielding very little results. Is it a matter of poor leadership and failed policy?
I'm not sure about leadership and policy. I can only speak to the numbers. And the numbers are showing more young people having education, particularly secondary and tertiary education. But then on the other side, numbers from the quarterly surveys are showing high unemployment. So there's certainly a mismatch happening that needs to be resolved. And I guess the place where that resolution begins is at a government level. It is with policies, it is with programs, and then it is with the cooperation of industry and the private sector to kind of hire, train, and give people skills.
And the skills gap, I mean, what is it speaking to when we look at the different tiers of skills needed in South Africa?
So the skills gap is a bit of a tricky one because there's formal skills and informal skills. And as we know, in South Africa, there's a fairly large informal economy that does drive much of our economic growth. And perhaps, this is a personal opinion, it would be investment in informal economies to make them more formalized. That is where we should be concentrating, as well as alongside the formal economy with the technical skills, the other skills that we lack or that we've lost due to brain drain or immigration in the country.
Yeah. Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us there, Professor Nicole De Wet-Billings, who is the Associate Professor of Demography and Population Studies at the University of Witwatersrand. Thank you for your time.